Hi, it's me Wangeline, and if you don't know Andrew Huang and his super cool series 4 producers flip the same sample, then you're really missing out. It's a little series where Andrew gets 3 other musicians on the show and they all have to transform the same sample into an entire piece of music and explain how they did that. I got invited onto the currently most recent episode, and if you haven't seen it already, please go ahead and watch it now. In this video, I'll be breaking down my entire track in much greater detail than in the video on Andrew's channel and hopefully explain my techniques and weird ways of processing things a little better. The track, which is called Spelldiver, by the way, is available right here on YouTube, Spotify and Bandcamp if you want to listen to the full track. We've been sent 3 little samples which sound like this. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. But I decided to focus mostly on this stringy guitar soundy one and use it as the foundation of pretty much my entire track. I also used the singy vocal sample a lot here and there, but haven't found any real use for the 3rd sample. At the very start I tried to just come up with some super repetitive little loop that I could turn into a speedy and fun sounding intro. I did this by just copying a small bit of the stringy sample over and over again and laying fun and loud stuff on top of it. We've got this kick drum, a piano that I put through an OTT and high-pass filter, then there's this big stack of super sauce, which I also put through an OTT to make it harsh and super crisp. And then I cut out some of the low end so it sounds less muddy and it doesn't clash with the other instruments. Then some ROM on top, which is currently my favorite reverb plugin, by the way, and I think it also used to be free for a month, but now it's like 50 euros, it's still great, love it, use it everywhere. ROM. And this reverb makes it sound less dry, which is nice, and you don't hear me say that very often actually. I like my future bass music kinda dry sounding, but a tiny touch of reverb can't hurt. I also like to slightly pitch bend the super sauce at the start of some big hits. It's like barely noticeable, but I kind of like the way it sounds. Then we've got this little bass guitar which plays these little lines and the bass is the Scabi Rickenbacker bass, also by Native Instruments, and it's absolutely fantastic and good and cool, and I use this bass all the time and it's great. It's like the only realistic sounding bass that I have in my library right now, and it's good and cool. Yeah. And together with all the loud super saw chord hits, I've got this thick bass playing, which is basically just a saw wave with some noise, then distortion, then everything above 260 Hz goes like through a super fast self-vocoder with white bands and unison, and then some OTT for even more loud, and then a big dip around 800 Hz to make space for a bunch of other instruments in that frequency region. On top of that, there's this little percussion loop. Another little percussion loop. and these regular old crashes and cymbal rides. This little silly sounding vocal chop chop mess is just a bunch of short snippets of the vocal sample we got sent, entirely unprocessed but hard panned left and right. Right next to that, there's this sustained vocal voice line melody thingy thing. I also put this into a sampler and just played these other cute melodies in the second half of the intro. And while we're speaking of so many beautiful vocals, this instrument over here is just a sampler, again with that vocal sample we were given, but this time I made it loop back and forth in a very small area on the sample. This makes it sound all clicky, and I really like that sound. I'm still not done talking about that vocal. Down here there's the raw sample just pitched up and drizzled in some reverb. And right after that, a different little part of the same sample, also pitched up, but distorted and thrown through some delay. Below that, there's just some more risers, crashes, hi-hats, and so on. Sprinkled all throughout the track are these little reverse reverb tail thingies, which I made by muting all drums and cymbals so only melodic sounds are audible, slapping a temporary reverb on the master, opening up FL Studio's recorder Edison, and briefly playing this one short little section. After that, I time stretched it a little bit to alter the sound to my liking and simply let it fade in rapidly with a tense curve like this one. Then I repeat that for a few different chords, and at the end they all sound somewhat like this. As for lead synths, there's just this one simple sine wave with bright noise. And the super cool wangly sounding lead, that's two tinny sounding wavetables with some aluminium foil noise on top, and then a really neat vocoder that uses the same signal as modulator and carrier. Using the right settings, which you can see here, it makes it sound, I don't know, just really good. I like the sound of this a lot. I used vocoders to process a lot of things, and over time I've just found ways to use them to transform simple synth patches like this one into entirely different sets of sounds. Now we get to the silly bits, which is this big mess of vocal samples that I pulled out of my comically large bag of vocal samples. Here's a dog. Here's the little yell of one of my patrons, Vivi, who asked me if I could use their sample in this track. Here's a small bit of the Donkey Kong 64 intro rap, but pitch shifted up and with words totally out of order. Not a vocal sample, but check out the soda can. More Donkey Kong, and whatever this is. This tiny slide whistle, and more Vivi. And that concludes this short little intro.
Intermission. Intermission. Intermission.
Now would be a good time to mention that if you want to support me by throwing a few little coins at your screen, I have a Patreon page. All patrons can see my videos at least a day early, get access to a secret Patreon channel on my Discord server where I talk about upcoming projects and videos and music and previews and also I read out all the names at the end of my videos as another little thank you. And Alex. $5 backers can download my Patreon sample pack, which I update almost every month with new sounds and samples that I make throughout time. Hope that sounds fun and intriguing, maybe, and all links in the description. Ah yes, more basses, more basses, more of them, good, very good. This complex little mess is basically just 4 different bass patches I made in Serum, playing alternating little swoops of notes. Unprocessed, it sounds like this. And then after some processing with basically the same vocal deck settings I've shown earlier and more OTT, because of course there's OTT on the loud things. Then we've got these 2 choirs playing mostly just long chords and a few little notes here and there. This is a simple sustained vowel choir called Requiem Light by Sound Iron. And this one is the Luminous Choir from Project Sam's The Free Orchestra. This high-pass piano is also doing some chord swoopies. And then here are some short voice and synth stabs and just a bunch of various leads playing the same little melody. And I can't just not mention it, there's a chopped up Amen break playing in this big mess, because it sounds good. Amen break good. Because it just sounds awesome. Right after this I once again slapped a bazillion gorillion little samples in there. It's mostly just the exact same samples I showed you earlier, just rearranged and chopped up differently. Oh, and I also sampled Megalovania because it's so funny. And also the original stringy sample just swoops up in pitch a bunch and pans leftward in this little section. Ah yes, here's the same bass from earlier playing sweet little bass lines while tons of random lead instruments just do their own thing. The bell-like instrument is just a preset from Native Instruments' hybrid keys that I really like. Oh, by the way, this little file is called Oof Riser because the raw sample I used to create this riser was just the Roblox oof. I did that in some livestream right here on YouTube a long time ago, and if you want to go look for it, you can just go onto my YouTube channel and scroll all the way down. There's a little playlist there with all my previous livestreams archived. I just don't know in which of these I made the riser, so I guess you'll have to watch all 74 hours now. Then there's 3 snappy drum hits, and the main sample gets all stretchy and rises in pitch again. Ah, and I also really like how this big stack of risers sounds, so here's all individual layers again. Boom! Fast bass playing action hacky frickle swoopies. Again with the same bass from earlier, and keeping the original sample basically unchanged in the first half of this build-up. Then over here the stringy sample just repeats a bunch during the second half of the build-up and just a ton of rises start blasting. There's also this little laser pew pew noise and this little sample of some Twitch streamer.
Yes, let's
go! The main sample does a little this and that. The clock does a little tick and tack. And the super soft rupee chords do their own little thingy thing. At the same time, we've got this rendered reverb just rising in pitch. And also a few drum fills and just more regular rises. In the drop, there aren't many new sounds and instruments introduced, except for this loud acid lead. This big lead patch I've gotten massive. And this is oscillated with a few other leads I already showed you earlier. And a bunch of little zappy and droopy and shoopy and wiggly little sounds. Drum and percussion wise it's pretty mild, but still like well filled with cymbal crashes and rides. And the funny sounding choppy voice sample also makes a return in this section. And of course, basses, supersaws and some other short leads and all that fun stuff. And here's what the entire final section sounds like. Hope you enjoy. And that should be everything. Once again, I'd like to thank Andrew Huang for inviting me into this incredibly cool series, and I'd like to thank you for watching the video. And if you'd like to listen to the full track I made, I'll put links to Spotify, Bandcamp and YouTube in the description. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to help me creating these videos and music, and as always I'd like to thank all my current patrons for all of this. So, big thanks to Catherine, Cujo Sound, Great, Captain Bubs, Anna Koick, Misty Burgess, Iris, Foxy Vivi, Grey Figment, Sophia Figueroa, Jane the Human, Teddy Edwards, Declan, Christy Komori, Silver, Windew, Ellie Spectacular, Hexagon, Zainad, Alias, Andy Chamberlain, Jacob Dyers, Alison Madden, Vivian, Sora, Benjamin Burns, Shaunak Shirgaukai, Dive to the Heart, Alex, Mikkel Armstrup, Jay Manning, Flower Gothic, Ram, Sam Plus, Matt MML Lucas, Rainbow Messenger, Dexty112, Day, Jolly Good Friend, Blue V12, Toffer and Selmo, Steel Pit Aphrodite, Rummy Wolf, Sprite on Balls, Sprite on Balls, Lily Lennon, Tenby, and Frostily. Frostally? Frostily. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and thank you so much for all of your support. I'll see you next time when I make a little song.